So for the last 4, 5, 6 months or so, I've pretty much done nothing but Titanfall 2 videos on this channel here. And for good reason. I'm madly in love with Titanfall 2 at this point. It's an incredible game. It's been incredibly fun. I've learned a lot about how good a first-person shooter can really be with advanced movement mechanics. And there's a lot of story behind whether or not I do or don't like advanced movement mechanics and the games that I used to play versus the games that I play now. But I don't want to get into that right now. What I'm really interested in talking about right now is where I am moving toward in the coming future, which of course is going to be Lawbreakers. And if you've been paying attention to my channel here on YouTube for the last week, you've seen pretty much nothing but Lawbreakers videos being posted, most of which has come from my Twitch livestream, which, by the way, you can find at twitch.tv/CodeNinjaGaming. Be sure to check that out and start watching my live streams as I'm doing them, trying to find a regular schedule for that. But on to Lawbreakers. What is this game? What does it play like? Is it really fair to compare this to something like Overwatch? Is this going to be the future of my channel, of gaming, of first-person shooters? Now, there's a lot of questions running through my head and running through other people's heads, and I want to kind of touch on some of these subjects over the next few minutes and really dig into whether or not I think Lawbreakers is a game that you should be playing. And I'm not going to say yes, absolutely it is. I think there's some caveats to this that you need to understand before you decide to spend your money on this particular game. Now, for the last week, I've been playing Lawbreakers Closed Beta on the PlayStation 4 pretty much exclusively. That's all I wanted to play. I put in roughly 10, maybe 12 hours worth of gameplay on this over the last week, and I had an incredibly fun time doing so. Now, I had a fun time doing this, but I know a lot of people were less happy with the experience than I was. There are people out there that just don't like the skill-based arena shooter, which is what this really is. This isn't like Titanfall 2 because there is a lot more skill required. This isn't like Overwatch either once you get down to the core gameplay and mechanics. Yeah, a lot of people do compare this to Overwatch because on the surface, oh well, it's a class-based shooter. It almost looks like a hero-based shooter like Overwatch is. But beyond that simple surface level appearance of classes or heroes, this really doesn't play anything like Overwatch. And the people that are comparing it to Overwatch at this point, well, they really haven't played Lawbreakers that much, if at all. They're just looking at it and looking at the class-based system, which is kind of an ignorant thing to do in the first place because the class-based popularity, well, it may have become popular with Overwatch, but it's been around since the mid to late 90s with Team Fortress, if not prior to that with previous games from which Team Fortress was inspired. There's probably other class-based shooters that were around before that, although, you know, it's possible that Team Fortress really was the first one to do that. But getting into the real gameplay of Lawbreakers, the reason I like Lawbreakers so much is because I see it as kind of my next step as a gamer in first-person shooters. I think for me, this last year has seen a lot of leaps and bounds and strides in my personal gaming preferences and gaming styles. This was the first year in forever that I skipped Call of Duty. I didn't buy Call of Duty Infinite Warfare because frankly I'm just burned out on what Call of Duty has become. Just minor variations of the same gameplay every year, spending $100 to $120 every single year to just have a new story that doesn't really do anything for me, to have some slightly modified game mechanics, and have some new and interesting things to do with the multiplayer experience. Not really that interesting to me anymore, at least not at this point. I'm probably going to skip Call of Duty World War II for the same exact reasons. However, I did get into Battlefield 1. Battlefield was a series that I always wanted to like, but never could quite get into. But never found my real skill at that game, because frankly I didn't have a lot of skill back when I was playing Call of Duty all the time. Battlefield 1 created a much more casual experience, so a lot of people complained about that. I found it to be quite enjoyable, so I picked it up. Titanfall 2 came along though. Well, it was basically the same area of time in which Battlefield and Call of Duty were were released, which is one of the downfalls of Titanfall 2, unfortunately. But in January of 2017, I started playing Titanfall 2 a lot and really fell in love with it. And I found that one of the reasons I liked it is because I could pick it up very casually, like Battlefield 1, but then there were a lot more things that I could do with Titanfall 2 in terms of movement, in terms of weapons, in terms of learning the Titans, all these new areas of gameplay to explore that I previously just didn't have with the games that I was playing. And along the way, I started to see that, oh, you know what? These games that require a little bit more skill, these are actually pretty fun. These are very interesting. I do want to learn all of these advanced movements and advanced weapons and Titan gameplay and all of these advanced things from this game. Now, what I realized, a few months into this, is that Titanfall 2 actually has a pretty low skill ceiling compared to a lot of other really advanced shooter games. Now, if you don't know what a skill ceiling is, the idea is that there is a maximum level of skill that any given player can have in a game in order to reach, the top tier. If a game has a low skill ceiling, then the absolute best player in the world at that game is probably still going to get wrecked by noobs because there's, just a really low skill ceiling. There's always opportunity for less skilled players to damage and destroy the high skilled players because there's not much skill required to play the game. Titanfall 2 has a moderately high, I guess not really high, a moderately medium mid-range skill ceiling, I think. It was certainly higher than I found in Battlefield 1 and a lot higher than I had found in Call of Duty in my previous years as a first-person shooter player. And I think that's one of the reasons that I liked Titanfall 2 is because it actually did challenge me and forced me to improve as a player. So then along comes this high TTK, high time to kill variant of Titanfall 2 that Respawn did for a week. And what I found is that I absolutely loved that high TTK mode because it raised the skill ceiling of Titanfall 2. It meant that I was no longer getting trashed by players that were less skilled, but just picked the more powerful weapons. They weren't just able to G2 me to death constantly. Now they actually had to aim a little better. They actually had to land more bullets. I wasn't getting fragged to death anymore. They actually had to plan out where and when they were going to throw their frags so that they could do some damage to me, but then get a few bullets into me as well and be able to aim. And in the end, what I found in the high TTK mode is that I was enjoying the game far more. And in the end, I found that in the high TTK mode in Titanfall 2, I was enjoying the game significantly more because I felt like the kills that I was getting required more of me as a player. But at the same time, the kills that I was receiving, the deaths that I was receiving, every time somebody killed me, I felt like, oh, that player actually outplayed me. They weren't just picking the better weapon that's always going to win. They were actually outplaying me. That level of skill involved made me have, more respect for the other player, essentially. I was able to look at that and say, oh, wow, okay, they did this in that situation, and that really did outplay me. I'm going to try to do that next time because I see now that there is areas for me to improve as a player, not just picking the different weapon, the better weapon, the stronger weapon, but actually improving the way I play this game overall. And I really, really, really enjoyed that experience. So now, along comes Lawbreakers in the closed PS4 beta, which I've been playing for the last week, which basically takes that level of skill requirement and builds an entire game around it. There is a reasonably high skill floor, meaning the minimum amount of skill that you need to have in order to play Lawbreakers. If you're a casual gamer and you just want to pick something up and dominate and obliterate and just trash everyone else, well, this game is not going to be for you because Lawbreakers does require some advanced movement capabilities, the ability to control multiple fingers at the same time on your controller in order to essentially move around the map, especially in the zero gravity environment. There is also an incredibly high skill ceiling compared to pretty much any other game that I've played, meaning that once you do pick up the basics of this game, there is going to be a ton for you to learn within the game overall, within the movement system, within the mechanics of firing, within the individual characters. Right now there are 9 different characters for the closed beta that I was playing. There's already a 10th character that we know we're going to be getting called Harrier. So there's going to be at least 10 different characters which each have a distinct style of play and movement and firing patterns and weapon types and everything else you can imagine. So within each class, there will be an incredibly high skill ceiling because you will have a lot to master with that class. And then there's the movement system overall, the gameplay itself, how the gameplay works, how each individual game mode works, how the zero gravity works, things like blind fire, things like strafing and bunny hopping, and team mechanics and team play and everything else. There's just an incredible amount of stuff to learn and do in this game. And I think that's why I fell in love with it so quickly here. I really see Lawbreakers as, for me, the next evolution in my gameplay as a first-person shooter player. It's a place where I can go to really challenge myself, to step up my game, and to force myself to do new and interesting and better things constantly, because there will always be something that I can do better. Titanfall 2 provided a good stepping stone for me. It provided a higher level of skill ceiling than I was used to, but it didn't make it out of reach like Titanfall 1 did from what I've heard. Titanfall 1, you had very few frames, literally like 2 frames in which you could get your slide hop in order to continue without just grinding to a halt. Titanfall 2 is much more forgiving. Slide hopping is much easier. Grappling with the slingshot is pretty darn simple, frankly, once you get the basic mechanics done. I've done my grapple guide on that to show you exactly how to do that, along with slide hopping. There's a lot of things you can do in Titanfall 2 that are, frankly, easy to do if you just take the time to practice the mechanics of the finger movements. You don't have to get the single frame, 2 frame, 3 frame timing down absolutely perfectly. Lawbreakers steps that up a bit for me. In order to do bunny hopping correctly and air strafing correctly, you got to get the timing a little bit more tight. You got to be a little bit better at it. You really have to pay attention to where you are, what you're looking at, what frame of animation you're on, where the floor is on the actual level that you're standing on, whether or not you're in zero gravity, what character you're playing with. There's a lot to pay attention to in order to play this game well. And I've found it to be incredibly enjoyable in spite of my horrendous kill-death ratio at like a 0.4 throughout the week of playing that I did. The reason that I found it so enjoyable is because every single kill that I got inside of Lawbreakers was an accomplishment for me. It was something that I was proud of. Like, oh yes, I got that kill. Oh yes, I got that kill. Yes, I outplayed this person. No, I didn't just come in and swoop up the kill. And yeah, okay, there were a number of times where I came in and swooped up the kill, and that's always enjoyable. I do like getting free kills. Let somebody else do the work and I'll just come in and clean up. That's great. But as I improved as a player, as I started playing more and learned more about the different characters that I was trying, I found that my skill level was increasing for that character within each map, within each game mode, and my enjoyment of the game continued to grow because I knew with certainty that it was my skill that was allowing me to get more and more kills, allowing me to score more and more points within whatever game mode I was playing, and really enjoy the game overall. So that's kind of the long version of the story of how I got to Lawbreakers and why I love Lawbreakers so much right now. And whether or not you as an individual are going to like Lawbreakers really depends on the type of game that you want to play. Are you looking for that casual shooter that's going to just be easy to pick up and you're just going to stomp all over everybody. Well, this is not the game for you. You're probably going to want Call of Duty. And I'm not saying that in a derogatory way by any means. In spite of me having skipped Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, I still fundamentally like the game mechanics and the gameplay of Call of Duty. Just kind of burnt out on it right now because, frankly, I played way too many years of nothing but hardcore game modes in Call of Duty, and the skill ceiling there is incredibly low. You essentially just had to be the first person to pull the trigger, and you would always win the gunfight, provided there weren't significant lag differences. With Lawbreakers, it is very different. Being the first person to pull the trigger is not guaranteed to be the winner. You really do have to outplay the other person. The other person will turn on you, will fire a more powerful weapon at you, will do all kinds of different tricky moves depending on the character they are playing, in order to get away from you, get around you, and outplay you so that they can kill you instead. I've done this a number of times. I've had it done to me a number of times. This game requires a lot more skill. If you're looking for that high skill shooter and you don't want the slow movement and slow pace of something like Overwatch, this is probably going to be the game for you coming up August 8th on its final release date, which I'm incredibly excited about. It's not terribly far away. Really, really, really wishing that it was here already, because this game, for me, is just incredibly fun. I love the fast-paced nature, the chaotic nature of this game. I love the class Wraith right now. Wraith is absolutely my main class right now. I've got probably 4 or 5 hours out of my 10 to 12 with just Wraith, and probably 2.5, 3 hours of Enforcer, which you're seeing in the background, which you saw earlier, and also probably another 2.5 hours of Vanguard, which Enforcer and Vanguard are kind of the basic classes. Enforcer being the assault rifle, Vanguard being the light machine gun, but Wraith with its crazy movement abilities and movement skill, incredibly high skill ceiling, a lot of fun. There's additional classes like Gunslinger, which has an incredibly high skill floor. You have to be a really good player to even start playing Gunslinger because of the dual wield guns and the different firing patterns it has, and the frankly slow movement of the Gunslinger. In spite of its warp capabilities, it really is one of the slowest classes. Then there's things like Battle Medic, which have pretty slow movement overall, but an incredible ability to heal and support the rest of the team, as well as do damage output with its grenade launcher. If you've done softball in Titanfall 2, you'll probably have some familiarity with the style of grenade launcher that the Battle Medic has in Lawbreakers. Then there's the Titan and the Juggernaut, which are the two heavies. There's the Assassin, which is this insanely fast movement character with 2 knives that you got to get up close to use, and then a shotgun as a secondary weapon. There's a lot of diversity in this game in terms of the classes, in terms of the characters that are in it, the maps that are in it. The game modes, well, there's not a ton of diversity in that right now. I am seriously hoping that the final release of this game will have a lot of diversity in the game modes, because right now there's basically 2 different game types. There's zone capture, there's pick something up and put it somewhere. That's really it. There's just variations of those 2 things, but it's fundamentally just zone capture and then pick something up and put it somewhere. I do really enjoy Blitzball, though, for the pick something up and put it somewhere game type. I especially enjoy playing Wraith in Blitzball because I can pick up the ball and I can move like a madman across the map in a very short period of time. The same way that I do in Titanfall 2 with grappling and slingshotting. I can do those kinds of things with the Wraith, only you're not doing it with a grapple. You're just using the double jumps and the slide jumps and all kinds of different crazy combinations with Wraith in order to move really quickly across the maps, and I really enjoy that. So it's not that these game modes are not enjoyable, there's just not a ton of diversity. When the final game does come out on August 8th, I'm really looking forward to hopefully some new and different game modes. I'd like to see something else put into the mix, maybe even a just flat-out team deathmatch or free-for-all kind of game mode perhaps. But there's a lot of opportunity for this game to continue to grow, to continue to add really cool stuff. And this is kind of where I get to the point of whether or not you should buy this game. I've already talked about the style of play and whether or not this game will be fun for you being a high skill shooter, but when it comes down to gameplay, I've talked about how this really doesn't compare to Overwatch because it's a lot faster, and yet happens to be class-based, which Overwatch is hero-based, really not class-based. But when it really comes down to the gameplay, this plays a lot more like Unreal Tournament than anything else, and rightfully so, because the guy that created this, Cliffy B, he created Unreal. He also created Gears of War, which is playing very differently than this. But there's a lot of things that you can see from Unreal Tournament, from Gears of War, from Titanfall 2, and yeah, even a little bit of Overwatch in this game. But this game does, in the end, feel very distinct and very unique to me as somebody that's played a lot of these games in the past. So is this game worth buying? Is this something that you should pick up? I'm going to say yes, if you're looking for a high-skill shooter, something that's going to be intense, something that's going to really need you to have friends to play with, people that you can pick up a game with and play for a while. I don't have a lot of friends that I play with from previous years. You know, there's typically 3 or 4 people that I've always played with, where we've just kind of stuck together over the years and always played games together. But with Lawbreakers, it's forced me to step out of my little comfort zone in my shell and find additional people to play with. And thankfully, with Twitch and YouTube and the growth on the channels that I've had, I'm finding people to play with, and I'm seeing that there is a lot of benefit to having more friends on PSN in order to play this game with, because you really do need a team, at least one other person in your party, in order to really do well. A single player is not likely to carry an entire team through a match of Lawbreakers. You need 2, 3, even 5 or 6 players in order to really create a well-balanced team that can effectively do call-outs about where people are and how to actually win the game. It's something that you need. Now, from a gameplay perspective, I think that covers it pretty well. From a price perspective, this is where I really started to think about Lawbreakers for the first time. When I heard that Lawbreakers was going to be $30, 30 USD, 30 bucks, that's it. You're not going to ever have to pay for DLC. You're not going to ever have to pay to win either, which is one of the things that really drives me nuts about Call of Duty these days, and Battlefield 1, and now Battlefront 2, Star Wars Battlefront 2. Yeah, Star Wars Battlefront 2 is going to have free DLC, but Star Wars Battlefront 2 is also going to be pay to win. And I say that because they recently talked about how the progression system is based upon the star cards, or whatever the cards are called nowadays in Battlefront 2. And those cards can be purchased with real money. Therefore, that game is now pay to win. People with money to spend on those cards will progress through the game faster than anyone else. So the game will end up being at least somewhat pay to win. Call of Duty is definitely pay to win at this point. You buy the better weapons, you buy the items with the little tweaks that you want in order to make you a more effective player. Battlefield 1 is definitely not pay to win, but it is a fragmented community with paid downloads. Call of Duty is also fragmented with paid downloads. Fragmented meaning people that have the downloads, the DLC packs, the season pass, whatever it's called, will be able to play all of the new maps and all of the new things, while the people that don't have the extra money to spend on that stuff will be essentially stuck with the core game, and that's it. This creates a very fragmented community in which you see many players pick up the new maps for the first time within the first few weeks of it being released and then never touch it again because there simply aren't enough people with the money to spend on that. This is one of the things that makes Lawbreakers very attractive. The 30 bucks that you spend will get you the core game and all future DLC in terms of maps and characters and core gameplay. Yes, there will be things that you can buy. Cosmetic things. I've verified this personally with several of the developers from Lawbreakers via Twitter and even in-game when we had a developer actually playing with us a while back. That was incredibly fun, and I'm extremely grateful for the opportunity to actually play Lawbreakers with one of the developers. That was pretty amazing. Lawbreakers has said, Boss Key, the developer, has said time and time again that they will not be charging us for the core game, for the DLC of maps or characters. The only thing that you will ever pay for is a skin to make yourself look more badass than you already do. And if you want to pay for that, that's phenomenal. I highly support that idea. I've been doing that in Titanfall 2. I drop 25 bucks every time Respawn comes out with a new Titanfall 2 Prime Titan skin with all of these crazy additional, banners and patches and skins and camo and everything, because I think it's really cool looking and because I want to support the company. I expect I'll be doing the same thing with Lawbreakers, throwing $25 at them or $30 or whatever it's going to be every so often, because I can and because I want to support the company. Not because I want to pay to win, not because I want the DLC and the maps that other people are not going to have, because that's not going to be the case with Lawbreakers. And that makes me incredibly excited about Lawbreakers. So from that perspective, which game do you think I'm going to be pitching to my friends, the people that don't have the ability to just go out and buy a DLC whenever they want the way that I do? Well, it's not going to be Call of Duty with its pay to win. It's not going to be Battlefield 1 anymore with its pay to get the new maps and new modes. And it's definitely not going to be Battlefront 2, which makes me really, really, really sad, because Battlefront 2 is now pay to win. I like that Battlefront 2 is now free DLC, but I don't like that it's moving to pay to win. Maybe that'll change with Battlefront 2. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out long term. But for now, the game that I am going to pitch to you and to all of my friends is Lawbreakers, because it's an incredibly fun game. It's dirt cheap to buy it. You'll never have to worry about buying the new maps or new characters, and you'll have the opportunity to get some amazingly good gameplay for an incredibly low price and over, an extended period of time, hopefully. I really want this game to succeed. I really want Boss Key to succeed. The developers seem to be genuinely awesome people. My interactions with them on Twitter have been nothing but positive. My interactions with them in-game have been nothing but incredible. I am really thankful for the work that Lawbreakers has put into this game so far, to see it come to the PS4, to have the opportunity to play the closed beta, to give them feedback, to talk about the things that I do and don't like and want to see changed, but more importantly, to play what is legitimately an incredible game with fantastic core gameplay. Yeah, there's going to be tweaks and changes between now and when the game actually arrives, which is why I'm not really talking about what I do and don't like about the game right now, because most of what I don't like is minor things that I know are going to be fixed and changed before the final release anyways. The core gameplay of Lawbreakers is absolutely phenomenal. The zero-G environments, the way gravity works in this game, the way the maps are laid out and set up, everything about this game is fundamentally amazingly fun to play. So yes, you really should pick up Lawbreakers if you want a skill-based arena first-person shooter. This is fundamentally a first-person shooter. This is not an objective-based game that happens to be a first-person shooter like Overwatch is. This is fundamentally a first-person shooter. The way the scoring works, the way the mechanics work, the way everything about this game works says first-person shooter. It just happens to have a bunch of arena-based, objective-based game modes that are really, frankly, fun to play. So that's pretty much it. That's my extended, long spiel and sales pitch about Lawbreakers. I hope that the gameplay you're seeing in the background has been at least somewhat inspiring in spite of my terrible ability at playing this game. I hope that what I've had to say is going to get you curious about this game. Be sure to watch my channel for more as this game comes out, for more news, for more tips, for more tricks, for more everything about Lawbreakers. This does not mean that I am going to be abandoning Titanfall 2 by any means. I still love Titanfall 2. I still want to play it more, but it serves a different role in my gaming life. It's the game that I can pick up on my own and play on my own and have a ton of fun with. Lawbreakers is really that intense. I want the adrenaline rush. I want to be shaky and jittery, and I want to be screaming and hoarse and have a sore throat by the end of this game because it's so damn intense. That's the role that Lawbreakers is going to fill for me. So be sure to check out my channel here on YouTube, subscribe for more Lawbreakers videos, more Titanfall 2, and more of who knows what else. And be sure to also check out my Twitch at twitch.tv/CodeNinjaGaming, where you'll be able to see me playing these games live at various times throughout the week and throughout the month and the upcoming year, and so on and so forth. I really enjoy these games, and I'm having a ton of fun doing it live on Twitch. So be sure to hit up twitch.tv/CodeNinjaGaming. Thanks for watching this extended little talk about what Lawbreakers is and why I like it so much and why I think you should buy it. Hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're going to pick up this game like I've already pre-ordered. And I hope to see you inside the 0G zones coming up on August 8th. Thanks again, and happy gaming.